you. Please take your seats. Please sit down. Just wait, please, Ms Seward. Commissioner Owen will be absent for the rest of this week. Commissioner Murphy and I will conduct today and tomorrow's hearings. Commissioner Owen will listen to and or read the transcript of today's evidence. The parties will be advised if Commissioner Owen has any questions arising from the evidence. Mr Ung is in the witness box already. Mr Ung, I understand that you will be using a hearing loop today to assist your hearing.
Yes.
Please let me know if at any time you cannot hear the questions because of any technical difficulty.
Yeah, I will.
Council will make an effort to speak clearly and directly to you. Please let me or them know if at any time you cannot hear them and you need them to speak more clearly to you. Now, Ms Seward.
Thank you. May it please the Commission. Mr Ng, can you hear? You may sit. That's.
Oh, sorry, we have to swear Mr Ung in. Mr Ung, would you like to take, you're going to take the affirmation?
Affirmation.
All right. Please state your full name.
I, Kim Min, sincerely declare and affirm that the evidence that I give to this Commission shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Thank you, Mr Ung. Please take your seat.
Thank you.
Now, Ms Seward will ask you some questions. Thank you, Ms Seward.
Mr Ng, you are now retired.
Yes.
And previously you were the Chief Finance Officer in the former Department of Racing, Gaming and Liquor.
Correct.
And you received a witness summons to appear at this Royal Commission.
Yes.
And you were given a list of topics and
Yes.
you prepared a statement.
That's right.
Now on the table in front of you there should be a copy of a document. Is that your witness statement dated the 31st of August?
They didn't have my signature, the date there, but I suppose it should be.
Oh, that's a printed version of one with that. On the front page, does it have the date of 31 August?
Correct.
And if you turn to the second last page, does it have 108 paragraph? You can't hear? I think we have a technical.
Can I just, excuse me? Okay. Is it working now?
I'll speak.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
If we just test, can you hear me when I'm speaking now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so you've got a copy of a statement in front of you. It goes up to paragraph 185.
Correct.
If you look on the screen in front of you, there should be a copy of the one that did have your signature, but it's been blanked out. Does that look like the one you remember?
Yep.
And if I could just ask the operator to turn over to the last page, 43. It was witnessed, and then it has a date, 31 August.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Is that a copy of the statement you prepared?
Correct. That's the one.
Now, I understand there's a couple of small typographical errors I'd like to correct. Operator, please turn to page 35, and if you could turn to page 35, please.
Yep.
If we look at paragraph 146, in the second line, it has some paragraph references. It says paragraph 128 dash, then it has 134, 143. Is it correct that that should simply read?
Should be
134.
128, then followed by 134 without 143 at the end.
So we can cross out 143.
Correct.
Thank you. If you stay on that page, if you look down the bottom of the page, it has a footnote.
Yep.
Footnote 8, numbered number 8. We turn over to page 36. We can see the next footnote is numbered 11. And if we turn over to the next page, the final footnote is numbered 13. Is it the case there are no missing footnotes? The numbering has just gone wrong. Is that correct?
Correct. That's just the sequential order
Yes.
problem.
Thank you. With those amendments, is your witness statement dated 31 August true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information and belief?
Yep, that's
Ms Seward, I noted one other possible error.
Thank you.
On paragraph 137, the copy that I've got, says 2015 to 2006. Should that be 2005 to 2006?
yep.
Yes, is that right, Mr. Ng?
No, I think I refer to that question. I think I have done a reconciliation of the actual recruitment fee from 2015. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Should be 2005-2006. Correct.
I thought
Just that number should read 2005.
Right.
Thank you,
I'll
Commissioner.
make that change. So with those changes, the statement of Mr Ung will be an exhibit in the commission with the number DLG.0010.0010.0020.
With the leave of the Commission, I have spoken to my learned friend counsel assisting. There's one small area of additional evidence in chief which I would seek leave to lead.
Certainly, Ms Siebert.
Now, Mr Ung, if I could ask you to turn to paragraph 75 of your witness statement.
Yep.
In this section, you're describing how you calculated the department fee, which you call the recruitment fee, from the period 2000 to about 2007-8. And that continues from paragraph 75 over until about paragraph 84. In those paragraphs, you have recorded one part of the process you followed. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
What part have you recorded?
Because the budget should be include a salary budget and non-salary budget. And what I've described from the paragraph 76 onwards is related to non-salary component. So I want to give more information about the salary component so as to give a whole or complete picture of the budget process.
Okay, so this part is the non-salary component. Is it
Mr
working?
Ung's having a problem, I think, with the hearing loop. What is the difficulty, Mr Ung?
Is it working, Mr Ung?
Yeah, sometimes it didn't.
Is it going
No.
on and off?
Yeah, on and off, on and off.
Okay.
Right, well,
I tried, maybe, no, cannot, yeah.
We'll just go slowly.
Sorry, keep
well,
going.
we might see if we can get some technical assistance.
Mr. Ong, just tries to, as much as possible, stay still. I think it might be the.
So, Mr Ung, would you be able
okay.
to, yes, perhaps just come close to the desk.
He's got it's around his neck, so
Oh,
that's okay. But I just think if
Oh,
you can not
don't
minimise movement, yeah,
Don't
and
move.
not on here, yeah, not on here.
Just put it here. Maybe.
No, leave it there.
Okay.
Okay, so you've described the non-salary component in your statement. How did you calculate the salary component?
Salary components is we based on salary budget used to come from HR, human resources section, or from my director, corporate services. So I assume that they will have discussed and negotiated and agreed with the call center manager, and that's the human resources they will allocate it to that particular call center for in the following year. And then once we got this figure, we will just pick up populate it into our master salary Excel spreadsheet, which will include already those non-salary component. So then you'll have a whole expenses for the total cost of total cost of services that we can start with.
Thank you. Was that all you wish to add on that part? Thank you. No further.
Thank you, Ms Seward. Yes, Mr Sharp.
Mr. Ung, just to take you to paragraph 5 of your witness statement. On page 3, operator. This is a point for clarification, and it might be being overly technical, but you've said in paragraph 5 that you were employed as the Chief Finance Officer of the department from March 2000 until 30 June 2017.
Yeah, correct.
And you were the Chief Finance Officer under the Financial Management Act regime, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
And that regime took effect from 2007?
2017.
From the Financial Management Act came into effect in 2007?
Can't remember the exact
Around
date.
that time?
Yeah.
And then prior to that, it was the Financial Administration and Audit Act?
Correct.
And under that act, you would have had the title Principal Accounting Officer?
Yeah, correct.
So just to clarify, from March 2000 until around 2007, you would have been Principal Accounting Officer?
Yep.
And then from 2007 until 2017, you were the Chief Finance Officer?
Yep.
And in your role as Chief Finance Officer, you were the Chief Finance Officer for the Department of Racing, Gaming and Liquor? Is that correct?
Correct.
And you were also the Chief Finance Officer for the Gaming and Wagering Commission?
I need to clarify first. From 2000 to 2003, I was the CFO, a Chief Finance Officer for 5 agencies. So one is the Office of Racing, Gaming and Liquor, and then subsequently changed to Department of Racing, Gaming and Liquor. Then the next one is the Gaming Commission of WA, and then the third one is a Betting Control Board, and fourth one is a Race Course Development Trust, and then the last one, the Racing Penalties Appeal Tribunal. But until 2003, in the year of 2003, there's a racing reform. So Betting Control Board merged with the Gaming Commission of WA to form a Gaming and Wagering Commission of WA, and they abolished the Racecourse Development Trust because we transfer all the asset and liability from the Racecourse Development Trust to a new body called Racing and Wagering WA, so formerly known as TAB. So we still keep the Racing Penalties Appeal Tribunal. So from 2003 onwards, I managed 3 agencies.
Now I'll call up the Financial Management Act, which is PUB 0016 0023 0003, and go to page 48, please, operator. Sorry, that's page 50 there, page 48. Mr. I'll just draw your attention to subsection 2 of section 57. And do you understand that to be your responsibilities as Chief Finance Officer?
Yes, I am, yeah.
And those responsibilities are owed to the accountable authority, do you agree?
Yeah, correct.
And during the time that you were Chief Finance Officer of the department, the accountable authority of the department was Mr. Barry Sargent, the Director General, is that
Correct.
right? And while you were the Chief Finance Officer of the Gaming and Wagering Commission, who was the accountable authority for the Gaming and Wagering Commission?
Mr. Sargent,
Mr. Sargent,
as the chairman.
as the chairman. And when you were the Chief Finance Officer for the Racing Penalties Appeal Tribunal, who was the accountable authority for the tribunal?
I will be not Barry Sargent, because it's nothing to do with Department of Racing, Gaming and Liquor. I can't remember the name. It's I think the background is also a lawyer. I can't remember the name. It's an independent from Barry Sargent, Mr. Sargent. Yeah.
if we can turn attention to paragraph A within subsection 2, it provides the Chief Finance Officer is responsible to the accountable authority for the preparation of financial information to facilitate the discharge of statutory reporting obligations of the agency. Do you see that?
Yeah, correct.
And so you accept that your responsibilities to the accountable authority of those agencies included providing that information?
Yep.
And providing accurate information would be part of that?
Yeah, that's correct.
And in paragraph C, it stated that the Chief Finance Officer of an agency is responsible to the accountable authority for the provision of advice concerning the financial implications of and financial risks to the agency's current and projected services.
This one I need to clarify a bit because even though with my role as the CFO of the Department of Racing, Gaming and Liquor, my role was limited in the way that the risk management was not part of my job. So it was handled by I think if I'm not wrong, is the Director of Corporate Services.
So you acknowledge that this Act says that you're responsible for providing advice about financial risks, but you say that in practice you did not provide that
That's
advice.
Right. So I think it's the structure. They operate in that way. So I can't comment too much.
But you accept your evidence is that you didn't provide advice about financial risks to the Gaming and Wagering Commission.
Well, in terms of the FMA, yeah, I agree with that. But in practice, in reality, it may be a little bit, there's a deviation. That's what I can say.
At paragraph 20, just going back to your witness statement, at paragraph 26, you state that as Chief Finance Officer, you attended part of a GWC board meeting on one occasion only in approximately 2000 or 2001 to answer a question about finance. And so is it the case that apart from that, you provided your advice to the GWC in writing? Is that how that worked in practice?
First, to my basic recollection, I could not recall what the reason why I was asked into the meeting room. I think at that time was Mr. David Houch. Just asked me to pop in to ask me something in the board meeting, but that was the only one that I have been in the meeting room for the board meeting.
And is there any reason why you didn't attend subsequent board meetings? I
was never attend any board meetings. Even I think I would say that my role was inherited from my ex-finance manager. She is a chartered accountant, but I have talked with her many years ago, and she also told me that she was never involved or participated in any board meeting of a gaming commission, GWC. So we don't know why. We don't know why we were not involved in any board meetings.
There's been evidence given from Mr. Kevin Harrison, who was a GWC member from the 1st of January 2006 until 31 December 2015, that when he commenced as a GWC member, that you gave him an oral briefing about the GWC's finances. I appreciate that some time ago.
Yeah.
Do you recall that you gave him an oral briefing?
Possibly it's an induction.
As induction?
Yeah, but I think it didn't happen again. Maybe only occurred once or twice.
Yes, okay. And so apart from the one occasion when you attended the board meeting and the one or two occasions when you assisted with induction of new members, was all of your advice to the GWC provided in writing? For example, through briefing papers and financial documents attached to briefing papers? Is that how you provided advice and information?
Yeah, that's right.
Just then turn to your witness statement at paragraph 62. And you've made some observations there in response to a topic asking about how the financial relationship between the department and the GWC could be improved. You've given a list of suggestions, and I'm just going to ask you for some more detail about a couple of your suggestions. So at paragraph 62.3, you suggest that interactions between the GWC and the CFO to be conducted regularly. What kind of interactions did you have in mind there?
I think maybe basically it's a little bit extension of the regular board meetings, so that to have a more discussion or whatever, or they can address that, discuss their concern or anything happened or issue they are related to financial issue, they can share with me.
And at paragraph 62.5, your suggestion is that the CFO should report only to the DG or the chair. Is that in contrast to the position in which you found yourself where you were reporting to a director? Is that the point that you're making there?
Oh no, because I did not report to the DG directly. I had to report to my immediate supervisor, the director, called the Director of Corporate Services. So in the organizational hierarchy, I was not in. I did not have any direct contact with Mr. Sargent, and I will still remember that earlier days, my boss, that means my immediate supervisor or director, and she make it very clear that anything will have to go through her, and I mean anything that I want to discuss or anything with Mr. Sargent as the DG, I have to go through her first.
I see. And just turning to 62.6, you've suggested that there should be a mechanism for allocating the cost of the GWC board members to the casino and non-casino related activities. What mechanism would you suggest should be implemented? How should that be done?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer because there's no such a activity-based costing. To my understanding, is in accordance with the Gaming and Wagering Act, I think it's Section 7 or something like that, and the board members, their duty also cover casino, not only casino but also non-casino activities. So I just wonder, if without any mechanism to allocate their costs to the casino and non-casino related activity, it is very hard, or if not impossible, it will be very hard to derive a true cost of the activities.
And perhaps just while you've touched on that subject, if we could turn to paragraph 76.
Sorry, which paragraph?
76.
Yep.
And just on page 19. Now this section of your witness statement is explaining the calculation method from 2000 until 2007 or 2008. And at the last sentence of paragraph 76, you say that the finance section adopted this approach because the department did not have an activity-based model of time recording. Are you on paragraph 76?
Yeah. So this one, because that is the Excel spreadsheet that all of the budget package we develop or used to do to allocate all the total cost of services of the department into our different cost center. And because at that time, sorry, I think.
Just to clarify, I'm just asking about the activity-based model of time recording, which you say the department didn't maintain. And I was intending to ask you, what would an activity-based model of time recording entail? What would that look like?
Well, it means it will be a job posting, something like that, because one particular officer or employee, when they have handled number of activities, they may be required to mark down the time, exact time they allocated to each activity, so that the cost or the expenses can be attributed to a specified or particular activity. Without such a mechanism, it just would be impossible to derive a reasonable cost or true cost of that activities.
And during the time that you were at the department did not maintain that kind of activity-based model of time recording. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then if we can turn back to paragraph 64 of your witness statement. At paragraph 64, so sorry, just to give context, this is in response to the question about the relative benefits and relative detriments of having the same person as Chief Finance Officer for the department and the Gaming and Wagering Commission. The first point you make at 64.1 as to detriments is a lack of independence to some extent. Can you elaborate on that point?
Yeah, I think to my understanding, particularly in finance, we are working in the corporate services, like providing support to the core business of the department of agency, not like the core business like what we had, like compliance, audit, or licensing in our office. So if they are, and particularly they are more regulatory nature, then I think for them it would be a little bit caution. But for me, I mean, from a finance person, we're just like providing a finance hub, and then provide the services to a number of clients. So yeah, to some extent there's a lack of independence, but not as serious as those core businesses with a regulatory nature. I would say that.
And from your experience as the Chief Finance Officer, how did you find that a lack of independence affected your role? And I will clarify, as the CFO of the Gaming and Wagering Commission, how was that role affected by that lack of independence that you've referred to?
I would say that based on my professional ethics, my professional practice as a CPA. So of course we have our own professional practice to follow and guidelines we have to follow. So I will try always to be impartial and did the right thing, and I will treat every agency that under our administration, I will treat them all the same. But I can elaborate more is that we at the year end, close to the year end, usually I would sit down with Mr. Sergeant to go through the financial position of the department and the GWC. So that is an indication to show that we look after the agency, to see whether they are financially sustainable or need any action to address any problem they may have. So at the every year we have this annual process. So we found that when there's a savings anticipated in the department, and then we have to find out a way how to pay a fair game to return some of the saving back to GWC. So that is the next step I will have to do with the Deputy Director General. That is Mr. Connolly, because he was in charge of the business section. He will have all those statistics about, for example, the number of audits and compliance they have to do. If they found that the actual number of activities fell short of the expected or the estimated budget level or target level, then it's an indication that we had to return money to GWC through the way of a reduction in the recruitment fee.
And on that issue you've just raised regarding the actual services that have been provided as against the target or budgeted services, are you aware of who made the decision about what the target should be or what the budget for services should be?
For the target, it should be well written or documented in the annual budget of the department in the state published budget paper. So in the area of KPI, key performance indicators, so there will be a target level, preset. So at the end of the year, the business section, the core business, like a deputy director general, I think he was in charge of the KPI as well. So he will gather all the information, statistic, and in terms of liquor, gaming, casino, and wagering. So you should have a quite clear list for each activities. So then I will discuss with him whether there's a really to justify for the reduction of the recruitment fee to GWC.
Turning back then to paragraph 38 of your witness statement, you say that I am aware that no internal audit process was conducted in around 2015 or 2016.
Yeah.
Are you able to explain why no internal audit process was conducted around that time?
I could only say what to my best knowledge, I knew at that time, because there was a crisis in the department. I could not remember it's a 215 or 216. I remember that the Deputy Director General received a call from OAG, Office of Auditor General. They had a concern about that there was no internal audit done in that year. So that's something that I could remember. But to be honest, if you ask me why did this happen, I could not tell much, because I was not involved in the internal audit process. If all the time is managed by my immediate supervisor, that is the director of governance and strategy, they keep changing the title all the time. So, and then it's up to them to, it's up to the top management to negotiate or arrange for internal audit.
And so after that year when you have knowledge that there was not an internal audit, are you aware of whether the internal audits recommenced after that?
Yeah, I think we just missed 1 year.
So next I'm going to ask you some questions concerning the department's service charge to the GWC or the charge which you refer to as, I think, the recruitment fee. Now, first, I'd like to take you to an email. Operator, call up, that's right, gwc.0007.009.0015. Now, can we please scroll to the bottom of that where there's an email from Mr. Ng to Mr. Ng dated 9th of March from a Mr. Milan Kuchira. You need to go further, operator. Yes, so can you see that on the bottom right of the screen? Perhaps we can just put that on one screen so it's a little bit clearer. Now, have you had the opportunity to look at this email overnight?
Yep. I think I received that email or request from Treasury. He was our resources analyst in Treasury. He just want to get some details because he might have to prepare a report at that time for some purpose. So when I look at it, it seems that he also aware that in the absence of usable service split, and could I examine our historical data, for example, the last 2 years, and give them a percentage split between liquor and non-liquor. So at that time, because I think in my witness statement I mentioned earlier, because of the office restructure, sometime in 2006 or 7, and some of the call center they abolished and merged into just a few call center, and they're just like a pool of resources in a reduced number of call center. And not only that, there's the problem with, in my opinion, is the office or the department pursued for multi-skilled of the staff in doing the liquor and also the gaming and the casino. So it would be liquor licensing and gaming licensing and wine drinking licensing, not only wine drinking inspector or liquor inspector. So they would expect staff to be multi-skilled. So it's very hard, as I mentioned earlier, unless you have an ABC, activity-based costing. There's no way we can, retrieve or identify the cost detail for each activity, like a liquor, like a gaming or a casino. So, and then at that time, I just based on my assumption at that time, because at that time I did discuss with the Treasury and analyst to see whether my approach would be appropriate or not. So because based on the full cost recovery assumption, we provide the services to the tribunal. That means the raising penalties appeal tribunal and the GWC, and we charge them a recruitment fee. So my logic or assumption was, if we provide them service, that means there will be the cost to the department. And when we recruit or charge them, it should be at least the same amount. I mean, the dollar value. So then I took from there and then put in my Excel spreadsheet, and then starting from the total cost of services of the department, take away the non-liquor component. That is the GWC and the tribunal. And that was what I would say 20 something and 70. So from at that point of time, when I look at that email again, I never expect this one would be someone will be used as a guideline or yardstick to do their costing after I have left the department.
I'll just ask you a couple of small details about that email, just for completeness. So Milan Kuchera, you said, was from Treasury. So just to clarify, that he's an officer at the WA Department of Treasury, is that correct?
No, it's a contact person. We call it our resources analyst. So when we have any budget submission, any issue with because it's to do with resources, we ask for more money or funding. He was the first person we have to contact. So he just had liaison with me. So we just have an interaction.
But he was an officer or employee of the Department of Treasury?
No, he was in Treasury.
In Treasury?
Yeah.
He's in Treasury, not in your department?
No.
And can I confirm with you that the COFOG, do you understand that that refers to classifications of the functions of government? Is that, or you're not aware of that?
I don't know the full name of it.
No.
Yeah, because also this exercise not every year. So it may be come out maybe every 4 years, or I could not say for certain, but I just remember that this exercise was not required on an annual basis.
Now, operator, if we can just move through to the next email. So Mr. Ng, we can see that you send an email on the 13th of March advising the appropriate percentage to allocate to racing and gaming would be 30% at the foot of that first page. You then forward that email onto a Mr. Bialis. Who is Mr. Bialis?
At that time, he was my accountant, and in my absence, he used to be the acting CFO. That is my practice in the team. I like to share information, and I believe at that time, if I didn't forward that email to him, this one would not show here.
Sorry, operator, if we can just go forward to the first page, that's right. So you forwarded that on, and that's shown at the foot of that email, and then you get a response from Mr. Bialis.
Yeah.
And he says, Terry, FYI, I did some calculations on Friday and they support the 30%. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Operator can call up gwc.007.009.0016. Oh, okay, there it is. Are those workings the workings that were produced by Mr. Bialis, or were they workings that you produced?
I think it was done by me, this one. Yeah, but I can't say 100% sure.
No, okay.
Because just the way of presentation, the way the structure, the presentation is quite like my style.
So it might have been you, but you couldn't.
I could not remember. Yeah.
No.
But I think we come up with column G, so it's roughly I fetched it for 4 years, but just take caution. The last one is only up to March, early March, so that's why it was highlighted in yellow. So all the previous year, 3 years are full year. But because at that time it was asked by Treasury up to the current period, so that's why I prepared that one in that way. I think possibly it's done by me.
But you're not sure?
Yeah, not sure. Because the way also in the email, Mr. Bialis said that he had done some calculation, and the way he did or the calculation he have achieved is also close to 30%. I can't remember whether he attached his working to me or not. I could not recall.
Perhaps we can go back to the previous document. Can we just scroll to the end and see if there's an attachment that might assist? Oh, sorry, stop for a moment. Actually, you can see at the top of the page, there's an attachment, but then that's an attachment to the later email. So perhaps that doesn't assist. Well, that's an attachment to an email from Mr. Bialis dated the 20th of May 2021. So perhaps that doesn't assist either way.
Yeah, maybe Mr. Barnes will be the appropriate person to answer it. I noticed that email was happened in May this year.
Yes, so that's after you've left.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, just turning back to the service charge and the process for calculating the service charge. The service charge at the time that you were the CFO would be generated through an internal departmental process that you've described between yourself and Mr. Sargent. Is that right?
You mean determine the final recruitment rate, is it right? I mean, prior to 2007 or 2008, we got the figure, the recruitment fee that which was charged to GWC or tribunal. I think, of course, I think we did forward to someone, top management, for approval because we are not the decision maker. So there's no way, because at the end of the day, it was the DG, Director General, to approve the budget for the department. So he or she will have to fully understand and agree with the recruitment fee. If I'm not wrong, in my memory, I think we put forward to our director, my director, immediate director, supervisor, and maybe she would get some approval indication from Mr. Sargent.
So you would put forward a recommended recruitment fee, as you called it, but then that would go up to Mr. Sargent for final approval?
Yeah, through my
Through your director?
Yeah, because I could not have a direct contact or report to him.
Sure.
Then after 2007 or 2008, we adopt, I think you may have some question later on, we adopt a flat recruitment rate. But I wait until when you ask the question on this area later.
Is there anything you'd like to add about that now? You can
the process is a bit different because around 2007 or 8, another office restructure I mentioned earlier. There's a number of the call center abolished. So they put also through the idea of a multi-skilled for the staff. So they were put into just a fewer call center, and then it was difficult to track down the calls for each activity. So at that time, we look back, we didn't know. We knew that there's a problem to derive a recruitment fee, so we need to discuss a final option or solution. Then we came up with the idea to use the immediate preceding year, the recruitment fee, and then build in the CPI, the consumer price index, and then it will be the following year, the recruitment fee. So it was not a bad choice or option because through this way, of course, we have to refer the recruitment fee charged over the last few years. So the figure seems to suggest that it's around 2.8 million or something like that. So I think it was quite a good indication, reliable, and also in the past, prior to this change, is a more the cost could be attributed or charged to a particular core business center. So we find that it's quite reliable. So we adopt it, and of course, the assumption is, should there be any changes in the scope of activities, like what we did for the raising basic levy in 2010, then the recruitment rate will have to adjust upwards. But why I would say that it was not that an option of better recruitment rate was a good option, because it filtered out all the impact, all the effect of the liquor reform in 2007 or 2008. Because when you have the liquor reform, we got the funding, appropriation from Treasury, additional to implement the reform. But through this reform, it also means that you will incur more expenses. So your total cost of service will also increase significantly without what like a ABC activity-based costing or any other job costing. How could you single out what is the cost for each activity? So that point of time, because you already removed the impact of the liquor reform, so that one is purely the recruitment rate used earlier before 2007 or 8 was really related to GWC and tribunal. So from what I say here is not a bad option at that time. So if there's any changes in the scope of activity, as I mentioned earlier, we have to increase the recruitment rate. That's why you can see why the recruitment rate increased significantly in 2010 and onwards. And not only the liquor reform, not only the raising basic levy, but also the accommodation. I remember that in our old office, it was about $189 per square meter. Our office space is about 1,700 square meter. But then, around 2010 or 11, we negotiated a lease accommodation. I remember at that time there's quite a high demand for the office in the CBD, in the city, in the central district city. Yeah. So the new lease we negotiated increased by 124%. So that is also one of the reasons we have to pass on the increase in the expenses in terms of accommodation to GWC and tribunal as well.
And so on that question of you're making a recommendation about the recruitment fee, and then it goes through your director up to the Director General, Mr. Sargent. Then Mr. Sargent determines what the recruitment fee should be. Is that how the process worked?
Yeah, it's through we sat down with Director General roughly in early March, because my accountant will complete a draft for the budget, GWC budget for the following year. And what happened is we put in we complete a draft and put in our recommended recruitment rate. But very simple. We just use the last year one plus the CPI. We put in the spreadsheet in that draft budget, and then we sit down with Barry Sargent. At that time, it's also involved the deputy director general. So because deputy director general
Who's the deputy director general?
Is it changed hands. So I think that more lately was to be Mr. Connolly. So because they in charge, or sometimes it's a compliance manager or director, because they keep changing the office restructure. Okay. Oh, okay. So we sit down together. Sometimes even my immediate boss will be there, but not always. So we sit down together and go through the budget. And because only the deputy director general and the DG will know exactly the business of the department, the status. So whether they will have more activities in the coming year or they will be reduced in the scope, in the activity. So for example, when they will be the one who knows whether there's an increase in the scope of activity for the RAWA, for the raising and engineering of WA. So if there's some expected increase in the scope of activity, then we will charge RAWA more. So what I try to say is all this must be came from someone who are responsibility and know what's going on the demand and the, for providing the services. So, and at the end, it was Mr. Sargent as the DG to decide whether this recruitment rate was appropriate or not. And also, I think remember in my witness statement, I also mentioned example is in 1 year, it was the DG asked for a zero budget. So what it means is a zero budget is no gain, no loss. So you can't, it will be like to get a lotto to achieve no gain, no loss. Okay, that means some number, the number will have to be massaged so as to achieve zero budget. So again, the exercise, finance just present the current condition, we didn't know any changes in any variable. So we just do our best, give a draft budget that is, it will be look like that. And we will be end up with maybe surplus by 10,000 or a loss by 50,000. Then that's why in the meeting is that the DG Director General or the Deputy Director General to give the input. Hey, I think there may be an increase in the scope of activity. So recruitment rate can go up. That's what I can explain.
So you would put up a recommendation and you'd have a discussion with the Director General, Mr. Sargent, and with the Deputy Director General or another senior executive officer. And if the Director General, you said he would decide if it was appropriate or not, the recruitment fee that's been proposed. And if he decided that it wasn't appropriate, what would happen?
Well, then he need to give indication or direction to us, what he want to achieve, like the zero budget. We will not have a clue why he want to achieve a zero budget or not.
And then the Director General would require you to do further work, or would he tell you what the fee would be?
We have to work with the number so to achieve what he wants.
And then that number, the recruitment fee, that number would then be put into the department's budget as a revenue item, as well as. Yep. Sorry, I'll put that to you first. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was shown in our the department's budget paper. Need to clarify a bit more. Is the department is a budget setter agency, receive the appropriation from Treasury, but GWC and Tribunal, they are not. Well, I would say they were not. Because in the old time, I don't know what happened now, and they were not. They were non-budget setter agency, so people could not find their budget details in the state budget paper because they had their own self-generating revenue, so they did not get the appropriation directly from the government. So Where are we?
Well, so the question was whether the service charge, the recruitment fee, as you call it, would appear in the department's budget as a revenue item.
Sorry. Yeah. So if you look at the budget paper, the state budget paper, there's at least 3 areas you can identify it. First, in the income statement, we call statement of financial performance. There's a line called provision of goods and services. They're sitting in there. And then in the cash flow statement, there's also a equivalent line item like a provision of service and goods. And also the last one is in a table called net appropriation determination, nearly the end of our budget. In that table, you can see it's a provision of service to the racing and gaming industry. So that line item, that is where the recruitment rate will sit there. But apart from that, you could not find any budget details of GWC in the department budget.
And the service charge, which is determined through the process you've outlined, would also be included in the GWC's budget as an expense that it would incur.
Sorry, can
So
you repeat again?
the recruitment fee would appear also in the GWC's budget as an expense.
Correct.
And is it the case that the department was essentially setting one number, one recruitment fee, which would appear both in the department's financial statements and also in the GWC's financial
Correct.
statements?
Suppose it should be reciprocal, it should be identical. Yeah.
When you were the CFO, is it correct that there was a monthly payment made from the GWC to your department for that service charge, recruitment fee?
Yeah, correct.
And was there an invoice that was generated for that monthly payment?
No invoice.
So how was that payment made?
It's also my usual practice. I want to have some documentation. So you can't just effect payment without some document. But the problem is I need to how to attach that supporting to the cash payment voucher. So I used the previous model. They got a list of the item like salaries, employee salary, superannuation overhead, accommodation. I can't remember whether there's a depreciation item there. So or either operating expenses. There's an itemized like that, but that is based on the previous model. But what I focus is only on the bottom line figure. So I use that spreadsheet, the model, like that one, like for example, 3 million, the bottom line. I just still refer to that spreadsheet, and in the cell of the Excel, I put the CPI percentage and in the spreadsheet, and then I just derived appropriate new recruitment rate from there. So I just use it as a supporting, because that one is also sometimes how to say, it's a Mr. Sergeant also want to park some money in the GWC. So what happened here is in the old day, in that spreadsheet there will be a item called super overhead. It's a superannuation overhead. So it's a practice. When I came on board, it's already the practice there. So what happened is we would not pay this amount, like the 20,000 called super overhead this year. We will pay it next year. So that to enable GWC to keep the money for a while. But I don't know what's the real intention of Mr. Sergeant. I just follow what we had done in the past. So that spreadsheet will serve me or help me, because I think I still need something to support what the figure we need to park in the GWC.
So when it came to that monthly payment, was there any involvement from the GWC in authorising that monthly payment?
No, because it's already approved. We're based on the approved budget by the minister as the authority. So what happened is there's a segregation of duties in the team, in my team. Normally someone will raise invoice, not invoice, the cash payment voucher and attach with maybe a copy of minister approval with his signature, and then maybe included the spreadsheet I mentioned earlier. So we just effect the payment. Someone in my team raise it, and someone approve it in the system, and someone release the payment.
If there was a case where there was a variation upwards, and so the monthly payment needed to be greater than what had been authorised by the GWC in the budget, would that payment still be made?
That is all will be sorted out in early June, because we pay up to May. So far, so good. So then in June, early June, we sit down with Mr. Sargent, because I will present, finance will present two sets of accounts. One is the department, one was GWC. Their financial position is at 31st of May, so that the DG can make decision. So we discuss with him, so that to DG, that is the latest financial position of GWC, and that is for the department. So then he may have some idea about the business activities. Of course, the input from the Deputy Director General, because the Deputy Director General was in charge of the KPI. So it's also one of the requirements in the annual budget process. Have to complete the KPI details in the budget paper by May or by April. So the compliance session or operation session under the Deputy Director General should have the KPI details from 1st of July at least up to early April or May. So what he has to do is add on top of it for any estimate KPI statistic, maybe from 1st of June to 30th of June. Then we'll have consider SSR to see whether there's a reducing the scope of activity or we have done more. Well, if we have done more, we never charge GWC. But if we find that we have done less, then top management will consider whether there will be a reduction in the recruitment rate.
But if there was, for example, a variance upwards in a capital expenditure, which would mean that the total recruitment, including both the recruitment fee and the capital expenditure, meant that the monthly payment in June would be greater than had been authorised by the GWC in its budget, would that payment be authorised by Mr. Sargent alone, or would that payment go back to the GWC for approval?
Yeah, good question. I know where the question came from. If it's more than budget, I would think that we will seek a signature from the Deputy Director General or relevant top management, because we will not approve it from the finances, hand over by finance. But I could not confirm right now because I could not remember.
Do you recall at any point when that reconciliation process happened, if the GWC was ever involved in authorising any payment at that time?
If I'm not wrong, then 1 year, I think the capital expenditure was over the budget. I think that year is the budget was 300K, but it turned out to be 558. But I could not remember whether I cannot recall. But my pet is the best management financial management should be to seek the top management to approve it. But but I think the people can verify it. You can go to the FMIS, the Financial Management Information System, and then because we attach all the supporting when we make the payment, so you will attach to the cash payment voucher. I think maybe by now, maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, there always will have been supporting. But whether got the signature from the top management, I could not 100% confirm here, but likely it would be.
Commissioner, I'm about to go to a new topic, so it might be worth taking the morning tea break now, if
certainly.
that's convenient to the Commission.
Mr. Ung, we will take morning tea now. We'll take a break, and if you can be back here in time to recommence at 11:30, thank you.
Okay.
And we will adjourn until 11:30.
All rise.
supplies.
Thank you. Please take your seats. Yes, Mr. Sharp.
Call up GWC.002.0016.0034 and please go straight to page 253. I know you shouldn't show page 1 because that's subject to a non-publication order. Mr. Ong, do you see this as the budget briefing paper for 2011-2012?
Yes.
And that it was prepared by you and dated the 15th of March 2011?
Correct.
And there's an item, capital expenditure other, for $300,000. Do you see that?
Yes.
And it states that funding is required for the build, development and implementation of the racing, gaming and liquor systems, such as the casino, employee bookmaker, managers, bookmaker employees and gaming operator modules. You see that?
Yeah, it's correct. And these details should become either coming from IT manager or from the DG.
And so this system that you're referring to here, is that a system that will be owned and operated by the department?
Oh no, it's spread over the other two agencies. That is the GWC and Tribunal, because they want to one shop for all the three agencies. So customer could go to this one online portal to launch the application and make payment. That's the idea.
So, but the Gaming and Wagering Commission itself doesn't have any staff, does it?
Sorry.
The Gaming and Wagering Commission itself does not have any staff,
No.
employed staff. So the staff who will be operating the system
Yep,
will
correct.
be departmental staff.
Correct.
And it would be the department, or would it be the department who owned the software?
Yeah, it should be in the department's fixed asset, because we did not maintain a fixed asset register for the GWC and the Tribunal. I think the terminology maybe have confused the people. It may be put into like a contribution or share of the department's capital expenditure instead of putting an item like that.
Yes, so at your witness statement at paragraph 131, you've referred to it there again as actual capital expenditure. But as you've just explained, it would have been more accurate to describe it as a contribution.
Yep,
Yes, because the asset's not going to be owned by the department, by the GWC.
correct.
And can we then go to operator GWC 00200160063 at page 395? Once again, please don't show the first page.
Oh, sorry, I can't
Yeah.
follow. Which page?
No, it's going to come on the screen.
Yep.
This is the financial report to 30 June 2012, and it's by you. You can see that.
Yeah, correct.
And you'll see under operating expenses that you've identified the actual expense for capital expenditure was higher than budgeted by $257,928. And then you refer to the fact that there's other savings, or there are savings in other expenses,
Yep.
but that the total operating expense was $164,295 above the budgeted amount.
Okay. Yep. I follow. Yep.
Now, given that this expenditure was more properly characterised as a contribution, would it have been more appropriate for the GWC's approval to be sought for the increase, given it wasn't purchasing the asset for itself?
Yeah, in terms of legitimate or I agree should go to the GWC for approval.
And do you accept that what's being put here is the GWC is being told after the fact of payment that it has paid more for that
Yeah, I follow.
contribution?
Yeah, but I think again, because at that time I could not recall what happened around that time. There may be Mr. Sargent may have discussed or something like that with other, but it's out of my knowledge. I can't confirm or answer it. But for sure, there's an overpayment, not overpayment, over the budget by 257K. Yeah, so it would be require someone to approve it.
Now, I'll just ask you to note the conclusion there that the total operating expense was higher by $164,295. So that's the recruitment fee plus what was called capital expenditure.
And plus other operating expenses.
Yes.
Yep.
So perhaps, would you like to see the data for that, or are you satisfied that that's correct?
If you can show me the breakdown or the statement
If you go to the next page, operator.
Yeah. Yep. You can see in the total operating expenses, the line there, year-to-date variance will be 164,295. The breakdown for this 164K is because of saving in the board member fee, saving in the super expenses, and saving in the conference, and there was over budget in capital expenditure, and saving in other operating expenses. I think operating expenses maybe some miscellaneous one, or I could not give you more detail. So on that one, you can see the service charge or recruitment fee. There's no difference. That means it's fully paid for this 4.3 million.
Yes, but the total operating expenses have come in $164,000 above the budget, haven't they?
Yeah, correct.
Now, if I can take you to your witness statement at paragraph 183. You've said that the department never charged a recruitment fee that was above the budgeted recruitment fee. However, the total fee charged for that year was above the budgeted amount because of that capital expenditure, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct.
And you've said that in paragraph 184, you didn't consider that you had any conflicts of interest while you were employed at the department because the recruitment fee was always at or below budget. But if there's a year, such as this year that we've seen, where the actual amount recouped from the GWC was above budget, do you consider that that puts you in a position of conflict?
That one, capital expenditure, or to my understanding, that is an ad hoc one. So it won't happen every year like that. So it's also for because the department at that moment really desperate for cash resources. So, and also there's an over budget in the capital expenditure. Then the DG will need to find a way to pay for the invoices. So I understand that there's an over budget, but DG was fully aware of it, and no payment will be made without his or his equivalent top management director's approval. So, I mean, I can only say that finance or even including myself will just take the instruction.
Operator, call up PUB.004.006.0167 and go to page 0233. So this is the department's annual report for 2011-2012.
Yep.
So operator, page 233. Now, can we enlarge note 15, please? Mr. Ng, I'd just like to draw your attention to the phrase in the middle of the page, or the sentences in the middle of the page. The department has a significant exposure to the Gaming and Wagering Commission of Western Australia. The Commission is expected to settle its debt of $620,030, which was in 2011 $407,014 $415 in due course. Can you explain to me why the GWC was in debt to the department in 2011 and 2012?
Well, without offhand any details, what I can say is the one I mentioned earlier is that Mr. Sergeant want to park some money in the GWC, something like it should be paid this financial year, but I didn't work in that way. It's still accrual accounting. So I think I need more information so that I can give you an answer. Because based on this one, I could not give you any explanation.
Did the GWC have sufficient funds in 2011 and 2012 to make those payments? Are you aware?
Can you go to another page called the cash resources that you can tell? I think maybe going up.
Operator, are you able to find a page called cash resources?
Yeah, I think if you roll up for two more. Sorry, maybe rolling down then. Sorry. Yep. No. Oh, sorry. Maybe go rolling up to where I can say stop. Then you can see the bank balance of the department. If you keep going, yeah, going up. Just keep going up. I just need to find the cash resources section. Yeah, going up, please. Yep. Up. Going up.
It might be 217 for the operator.
The bank balance.
Is that?
Yeah. One more. Yep. And then one more, please. Yep. Yeah. So you can see the cash resources in 2012 is 476. So you can see also the receivable is 962 in 2012. So it's a significant increase from 2011. But from here, I don't have the details of information. I can't explain to you such a significant increase in the receivable.
Operator, call up GWC.007.0011.0043. So this is the agenda for the GWC meeting for the 24th of March 2009.
Yes.
Please go to page 497. See, this is the budget 2009 to 2010. And operator, if you can roll to the next page. That's prepared by Barry Sargent, Director General. And please go back to the previous page. The second last paragraph, operator, can we zoom out just the bottom section in relation to the operating expenses? So the middle paragraph, the middle bullet paragraph, is a report from Mr. Sargent, or information from Mr. Sargent, that recruitment for services received from RGL has increased by $771,344 due to review of fees and charges exercise undertaken by RGL. This figure is now a true indication of the costs and services provided by the department. So what is your awareness of that review that was conducted by the department?
No, I think I was away and someone was in the acting position. But I knew a bit about the review of fees and charges because Mr. Sargent engaged an ex-employee called Mr. Ray Younger, and to come back to also doing the acting director of corporate services to do a review of the fees and charges, and he completed. And I think, if I'm not wrong, because Mr. Younger did ask me some question about the total cost of services of the department, so that he can put into his calculation. So at the end, it seems that the finding was that most of the revenue or the fees and charges, not only the department but also the gaming, GWC and tribunal, are for sort of a full cost recovery. So that's the information I can share. But apart from that, how to come up with a 771K, I could not tell.
And you earlier gave evidence that from the 2002, 2007, 2008 period, that there was a reliance on CPI increases from that point, subject to changes in the scope of work that was provided. Yeah. But this is clearly a divergence from that approach, isn't it? Because that's not a CPI increase and it's not based on a change in scope of work. It's based apparently on a review of the way that the calculation is performed. Is that correct?
I can't say for sure, but just bear in mind, I mentioned earlier, there's a significant increase in the accommodation. I would say it will be factored into this calculation. But again, I was not involved, so that's the best I can mention.
Was it a cause for concern for you that there had been... Sorry, I'll withdraw that. In the context of a budget of 3 million or so, an increase of 700,000 or so is about a quarter of the budget for that recruitment fee. is it a matter of concern to you that the department had failed to properly calculate the total cost of services for a number of years leading up to this review, if this review was accurate?
I'm not sure whether I'm in that position to answer this question because I was not involved, and really I don't know all the costing or any information related to these fees and charges.
Well, do you consider that the fees that you calculated up until this review was done were all inaccurate by a quarter?
No, I won't say that it's inaccurate. It's just the Treasury try to push. Is it the right word to use? Try to ask the agency to review the fees and charge in the direction of full cost recovery. So I assume that prior to this exercise, the department, the review fees of charges was never up to full cost of recovery. That means the state government subsidize, indeed, licensing activity is subsidizing it. So because they are not charging client or customer the full cost.
It wasn't the case that full cost recovery was brought in during the 1990s, and so by the time you were there in 2000, you were meant to be calculating full cost recovery when you were doing the method of calculation you've explained to the Commission earlier?
I beg your pardon? Can you?
The full cost recovery approach was implemented in the 1990s, wasn't it?
I just can't say, I can't remember.
When you commenced in March 2000 and you were performing the task of calculating the service fee, you understood that you were calculating the service fee on a total cost of service basis, didn't you?
Oh, there's a distinction, I need to clarify. What we are doing is from different directions. We will fees and charges for the revenue side. What we are doing, the recruitment fee, we're based on the total cost of services. That is expenses. Because department is delivering the services to the community. We are not for-profit organization. So our focus or target is mainly focused on controlling costs. So we are focused on how to recoup all the costs in delivering the services. So the review of charges is from to my understanding is, it will review the fees and charges, take into account a number of variables. Then, I think it seems to be a different direction.
Well, in 2000, when you were calculating the service fee, from 2000 until 2007, you were calculating the service fee in the way I've outlined. That was on the basis of a full cost recovery approach, wasn't it?
Yeah, correct. But we are taking the approved budget, the total cost of services. We are not looking at the revenue side. It's only all the expenses. Expenses include salary, accommodation, depreciation, and so on, but not related to the revenue in that area. That's what I can say.
No, but did you consider that you had, during that time from 2000 to 2007, failed to properly calculate the full cost of the services by a factor of 25% by a quarter? Were your figures wrong by a quarter during that time, or were they correct?
No, I can't understand this question. Can you?
During the time from 2000 until 2007,
Yeah.
do you maintain that you correctly calculated the total cost of the services that were being recovered by the recruitment fee?
Well, I would say so. We just try. In that spreadsheet we can just ascertain the percentage. Nearly most of the staff in the department, they spend in each activity, and then we end up with the recruitment rate. But again, I think here is a focus on the total cost of the services.
And would you be surprised if someone did a review and found that you had been under calculating by 25% the cost the recruitment fee?
I think I'm a lag behind. You mentioned
Would you-
25%.
If someone did a review of your calculations from 2000 until 2007 of the recruitment fee and found that you had been under-calculating it by 25%, would you find that surprising?
Yeah, but I haven't experienced that such an incident or experienced something like that.
Because you prepared those figures carefully.
Well, if they can justify their findings to prove that we are wrong or we are, the figure doesn't make sense, or I will follow and have a look.
Just give me a moment, sorry, Mr. So, Mr. Ng, just to take you to paragraph 124 of your witness statement. You stated that you recall that in 2006, as part of the process described above, Mr. Sargent indicated that he thought that some money should be returned to the GWC. I recall that Mr. Sargent indicated a figure of around 400,000 to 500,000. Can you recall the basis on which Mr. Sargent reached that conclusion?
Of course, that's an annual process I described earlier. Early June, we will prepare two sets of financial reports, one for the department and the other one the GWC. And then we sit down with the Director General and then to see whether there's a possibility or justified to return money to GWC by the way of a reduction of the recruitment rate. So I believe that some discussion and the final decision was made to return, if I'm not wrong, maybe 400,000 returned to GWC. Based on, if I'm not wrong, it's based on the financial position of the department at that time. So the department, I think it's the estimate budget is greater than the actual, maybe by around late May or early June. That's why the department have this capacity to pass on the savings to GWC.
And if I can just take you back to your witness statement, paragraph 182. You've said that in fulfilling your role, you did your best to assess the GWC financial position in an impartial way and ensure that the recruitment fee that the department charged GWC was fair, reasonable and justified, and also ensure their sustainability.
Yep.
But based on your evidence today, wasn't it essentially that Mr. Sargent determined what the recruitment fee would be?
Well, yeah, he was the one to make decision to determine the appropriate recruitment rate, whether to return or not, but based on some justified, based on some performance measures. So it could not just say return 500,000 without any supporting. So because that is one of the indication of good financial management practice, to sit down to review the financial position of GWC and the department. I'll give you some example. In the year 2016, the bank balance of the department, I think is at 27,000. But in 2017, it improved into 1 million. And at the same time, the Gaming Commission, GWC, their cash balance in 2016, I think is 448K, but in 2017, it improved it into more than 1.4 million. So you can see that it was through the financial management practice, we restore, assist the Director General to restore the financial position of both departments. So we did it on a continuous basis and impartial. We found that it's a fair game. We found that the savings should be passed on to GWC, who would take the action. However, having said that, I noticed that there's a couple of years, there's no return, no reduction, but it's also based on other condition. If you can't afford it, then you cannot make any reduction. Because what I say, in 2016, the bank balance of the department only 27,000. And of course, the most important thing is based on the performance measure, whether the expected or the target level in delivering the activity is the other way, the actual performance is fall short of the expected or the target level. I think that is the most point or foundation we have to look at in order to make decision to return the money to the GWC.
Now, just turning to your witness statement at paragraph 164. You say that while I was employed as the Chief Finance Officer, I was never asked by any GWC board member to address the method used to calculate the department's recruitment fee to the GWC.
That's correct. Nobody contact me or try to get any information from me or through my immediate supervisor or whoever.
And with the benefit of hindsight, do you think that you should have volunteered an explanation in the briefing papers that you were providing about how the service fee was calculated?
Volunteer? In what way? I think, to be honest, that I have restricted access to the board meeting or whatever, was not involved. And if there's anything, go to the board. It always has been reviewed, added, and even polished by Barry Sargent. Even the monthly report you showed it in this session, even I signed at the end, it has been reviewed, added, and polished by the DG.
And then just turning to paragraph 174. This concerns the sum of $500,000, which is identified in the department's annual report 2016-2017 as, quote, grants to individuals problem gambling. In paragraph 174, you accept that that sum is the sum of $500,000 that's redirected to the Department of Local Government and Communities. Do you agree that calling that line item grants is not an accurate description of the transfer of that sum to that other department?
I cannot say for sure because this item, the narration or something like that, maybe have to at the request of Treasury, because this sum of money or this initiative or program was a result of I think, if I'm not wrong, is to do with the casino expansion. So there was a 2 million in the first year allocated to as a problem gambling fund, and pass it on to the local government and communities. So, and this one is sold into the departments that administer transactions. So I can't say for sure why the name was named like that, because when we submit the data to Treasury, they need to have a particular name. So having said that, I can't say for sure whether it came from Treasury or whoever make the decision to name it in that way.
And the other aspect of the name is problem gambling. The other aspect of that label is grants to individuals problem gambling. And you accept that that money is going to the Department of Communities under the MOU concerning financial counselling services. Does that suggest that the problem gambling part of that description is also not an accurate description of that line item?
First, the MOU, I never heard about it. I just brought to my sight when I received a question from the Royal Commission, maybe less than 10 days ago. I was not aware there's an MOU related to that one, and of course, without knowing anything about the MOU or any detail, except it was just so that the money will be granted to, will be passed on to the racing game, the department, and then it's a minister's transaction, and then we pass it on to the Department of Community upon receive their invoices. So apart from that, I have no knowledge about this program.
But as Chief Finance Officer, weren't you responsible for ensuring that the annual reports were accurate?
Yeah.
And so should you have made further investigation at the time about whether that was an accurate description?
Again, as what I say, I'm not sure whether this terminology came from Treasury suggestion or not. I can't say for sure.
Operator, please call up document GWC.007.0011.0225. This is a GWC agenda for 30 June 2005. And go to page 394, please. Sorry, and can we see the previous page as well? Sorry, operator, can we go to page 388? You'll see this is an agenda item to that meeting for the 30th of June 2005. And it's the budget document for 2005-2006, attaching the budget estimates.
Yes.
And can we go over the page, please? You'll see that that's a document that is in the name of Mr. Halge.
Yeah, David Halge, yep.
And I'll just ask you to look at the top right of the screen, noting that on the bottom left of the screen, it's indicated that, as indicated above, the services provided by the Department of Racing, Gaming and Liquor has increased to 2.93 million, which is made up of the following items.
So
Are you able to explain how that breakdown has been produced?
I'm not quite sure. I think I mentioned earlier, and the salaries and also the super overhead is something like that I mentioned earlier. So that is through the when we prepare the budget for the department, and then go through this process, we came up with the recruitment rate or recruitment fee. So that is a portion that we have to charge a GWC. So I think this one was done through the package, prior to 2007. So that is the bottom line figure, the 2.9 million is supposed to be the recruitment fee for that year.
But can you explain those items that are set out there?
Well, okay. Salary is I mentioned earlier that we have the salary package, salary budgets. So we populate all the salary budget detail into a master budget package. So and build in the worker compensation, build in the accommodation, electricity, and also because the corporate services are the non-core business, so we have to allocate the share or portion of the corporate services salary and non-salary into GWC, or in the past before, GWC, and then and the superannuation, because they are the combination of the core business expenses plus any allocation from the non-core business. So it's A plus B, it will end up with the total full cost of service provider. It's through the package or the Excel spreadsheet we undertook. So because they pick up all the item is a salary, worker compensation, accommodation, and then the last one, as well as say, is through the allocation of the non-core business into the GWC and tribunal as well. And all in all, this came from the total cost of service approved by Treasury.
I'm now going to take you to the financial year ending 30 June 2012. The first thing is to take you back to the financial report to 30 June 2012 for that year. So operator, call up GWC.002.0016.0063 and go straight to page 395, please. Now, if we can go to the next page. You can see there that you've reported services provided by DRGL, the year-to-date budget and year-to-date actual figures are the same. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So next going to go to the GWC's annual report for 2011-2012. So operator, call up pub.002.001.0061 and go to page 0114, please. And can we just bring out note 15? Sorry, that is note 15. Yes, that's right. Thank you. Now, Mr. Ong, you can see this is a statement about an explanatory statement about variances.
Yep.
Under Roman 1, significant variances between estimated and actual result for 2012. And it shows for services and contract fees a variance of 185,673. And then if we look towards the bottom of the screen, services and contract fees, the variance was due to the increased recruitment paid to the Department of Racing, Gaming and Liquor for the provision of services. So there's an inconsistency in that the annual report shows there's been a recruitment above this budget when your earlier statement showed that they were at budget. How do you explain that
That
inconsistency?
is wrong. The description in the service and contract fees was wrong. I overlooked it. Because the appropriate or the correct description should be the variance was due to the increase in the capital expenditure. So someone put it there and I overlooked it. I think at that time, maybe people were comparing the 4.326 million recruitment fee against the year ahead. Because the year before is a 4.2 million. So from 4.2 million jump into 4.326 is an increase. You're comparing the actual recruitment rate from 2012 and 2011 instead of comparing to the 2012 estimate. So it was wrong description. So I admit that it was an error here.
And I'd also take you back to your witness statement at paragraphs 130 to 131. Now, at paragraph 130, you say that the actual recruitment fee to GWC was 4,326 and the capital expenditure was 557,928, and that adding those figures together should have resulted in the recruitment from the department being 4,884. The actual figure was 4,811, and you've said at paragraph 130 that in your view the figure in the department's annual report should be 4,884. Is it a concern to you that there's a discrepancy in both the department's annual report and an apparent discrepancy in the GWC's annual report, all concerning the variance for the recruitment fee?
It's a great concern. I identified two mistakes I made. The one I mentioned earlier, the other one is here. In the department's annual report in that year was wrong. The 4,811 was wrong. I believe, I think someone in my team just added put the wrong figure. I think there was a grouping. Can you show to the RGL annual report for that issue? I can explain to you more then.
Yes. Call up PUB.0002. Sorry, that's the wrong one. That's the GWC annual report. The department's annual report is PUB.0004.006.0167. And go to page 0232.
Yeah, you
So
see
under note
in
12.
note 12, note 12, under the net appropriation revenue, Gaming and Engineering Commission of WA, 4,811, it should be 4,884. So I think the grouping is error. So the difference will have to adjust it in the under the liquor fees and other charges, 5.553. So the figure should be 4,884. It should be identical to the record, to the figure in the GWC. So I admit that another mistake or error I overlook.
I can just take you to an overview document. So operator call up PCRC.0004.008.001. Now, I'll ask you to disregard the third column and the fourth column because for the reasons you've outlined in your witness statement, you don't accept those actual service charges, but I do take it that you accept the budgeted service charge is correctly stated in this document.
I spent some time to reconcile it. So I noticed that there's 4 figures in the year of 2009. That is the figure should be 3345. The difference 260 is the capital expenditure. And then the other one is in 2012, the figure should be the same 4326. And with the 558 is the additional capital expenditure. And then came to 2015, the difference means 401. It's a rounding difference. So because there was 400K in capital expenditure. And the last one is 2016, is it? 2016, you end up with a 101 difference because there's a 100K in the capital expenditure. So it's comparing apple to apple, the recruitment fee should be the same, but the difference is because of the capital expenditure. So all the rest are up to 2017 are okay, except this 4.
Now, if we focus on the budgeted service charge, you'll see that from 2006 to 2012, the budgeted service charge increases from 2.938 million to 4.326 million, which is an increase of 47.2%. Or an increase of $231,000 per year.
If the figure had been ratified in accordance with what I mentioned there, because the 2009 and 2012 ratified, my calculation is only increased by 70%. But however, it's a significant increase because we mentioned or discussed earlier, because the changes in the introduction or implementation of raising base levy, and also the increase in the accommodation. So these are the factors we have to, take into account for the increase.
And that service charge the department charges to the Gaming and Wagering Commission, that's the major expense for the Gaming and Wagering Commission?
Correct.
And you can see the casino fee in the third column from the right. The casino license fee has increased from 2.217 million in 2006 to 2.556 million in 2012. And that is an increase of 15%. And the casino fee is the major source of revenue for the Gaming and Wagering Commission, isn't it? The largest single source of revenue.
Yeah, I agree.
So what this table shows that from 2006 to 2012, the budgeted service charge is increasing 3 times faster than the casino fee. Do you agree?
Yeah, it did. But bear in mind, it also returned a lot of, returned 2.5 million back through the reduction in the recruitment fee back to GWC over the period. So it's if someone can validate what I say, it's 2.5 million returned to GWC.
You want some more water? Or?
I'm fine.
Okay. Do you consider that at 2012 there ought to have been a warning given to the GWC that its expenses were increasing much more quickly than its revenue?
Yeah, I can see that all those increase the scope of activities, introduction of the raising basic levy, return, and so on.
Do you agree that there should have been a warning given to the GWC in 2012 that its revenue was, that its expenses were increasing much more quickly than its revenue?
That's why we say we sit down every year in June, early June, with the Director General to go through the financial position of GWC.
I understand that, but I'm asking you, do you think that the GWC should have been given a warning in 2012 that its expenses were growing at a much greater rate than its revenue?
I would say so.
Are you aware of whether any such warning was given?
I don't worry about much because the DG was in total control. And bear in mind that my DG, his background is also a CPA. So he may know more than I do.
And can we call up GWC.0002.0016.0034 at page 253? So this is the briefing paper for the budget in 2011-2012 that you prepared. And you'll see at the foot of the page, you identify there's a deficit in the budget, estimated at 554,000.
Yep.
Which is a combination, you say, of the $300,000 capital expenditure for ongoing GWC system development and the recurring normal cost of operation, which have been budgeted for as a $254,000 deficit. With the benefit of hindsight, do you think that you should have given the GWC a warning about the fact that it was running such a substantial deficit?
Well, this one is addressed to the chairman, and the chairman is Barry Sargent, Mr. Sargent, and we have to go through the budget process with him. He should be 100% sure the GWC position, financial position. So that is the briefing note that I prepared. But again, as what I mentioned earlier, everything I wrote to the board has been reviewed, edited, or even polished by the Mr. Sargent. So he should know he was involved in the budget process with finance people, and he was the decision maker to determine and approve the budget. I mean, he need to, I know, it's to be legitimately, it should be approved in the board. But what I say is that he passed the first step first. He agreed with it and presented it to the board for final approval.
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Any council who wish to examine?
One brief question, Commissioners. So I act for the Crown Group. You mentioned in your evidence this morning that the GWC is a self-generator of revenue. Do you remember that?
Sorry, I can't pick up what you said. Can you?
Sorry. You mentioned this morning that the GWC is a self-generator of revenue. It earns its own revenue. I'd like to just go through that with an example, if I may. If we could please turn to GWC.0002.0016.0204 and go straight to page 153. And if you zoom in on Recoup Lottery West, So this is one of the items mentioned in your witness statement, recoup Lottery West. This is describing a fee that the GWC receives for services provided to Lottery West. Can you tell us a bit about how that number is calculated?
I could not help here because it was not prepared and delivered by finance section. It was done by the director or manager of compliance in the business section.
I see. And do you have any understanding of how that fee is earned by the GWC?
Yeah, to my best recollection is every year the compliance manager or director will make an estimate, of course, in accordance with whether there will be any increase in the scope of activities for the Lottery West. And then they will determine prepare a memo for the charge, for the service charge to be recouped from Lottery West, or the service we render or provided to them. I think at the end it should be signed off by maybe a Mr. Sergeant or Mr. Connolly. So from that one, on that issue, finance was not involved. So they just give us a copy of their memo with approval, maybe from the minister or from the. So I could not say for certain here. They will give us a copy of the memo with someone sign it, approve it.
I see. And you can see the amount in this.
And then we will raise invoice based on that memo against the Lottery West. I think maybe quarterly. We raise invoice against a lottery on a quarterly basis.
Right. Okay. And the amount here is estimated $114,000. Do you have any sense of how much revenue Lottery West earns in a given year?
No.
If I said
can't.
it was in the millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, would that sound right, or you've got no idea?
No, I can't tell here.
Okay.
I don't think finance got the information.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Furios. Anyone else? No? Thank you. Yes.
Just a couple of questions, if I can, Mr. Ung. Mr. Sharp asked you extensively about the recoupment fee. I'll try to summarise my understanding that historically there was a 70-30 split, and that was varied year on year based on two items, which is activity and the position to pay. I mean, it's outlined in paragraph 93 in your witness statement. So you would consult with the Director General, who was also the chair of the GWC, who advised whether there was a change in the activity level, which would influence the fee, the recoupment fee, and also he would look at the capacity of the GWC to pay. Would that be a fair statement of how the recoupment fee is?
Yeah, I will be after the discussion and with all the funding justified. I mean, I got the information from the business from the operations division with some statistics to justify for any reduction of the recruitment. I will prepare a memo and address to Barry Sergeant, Mr. Sergeant, and he will sign it. And then I will keep it's my usual practice to keep that memo in some in other areas, like in the working paper of year-end financial statement, so that the auditor, external auditor, can have access to it and examine it. And the other one is when we make the payment back to GWC, we'll attach that memo with that cash payment voucher. So it's to maintain some documentation as much as possible.
Very good. And Mr. Sergeant is, of course, has to look at the financial position of the GWC, but also the financial position of the department as both chair of the GWC and Director General of the department.
Yep.
Correct. You mentioned that if an invoice went above the budgeted amount, you would always get sign-off from top management to make sure that you had appropriate authorisation. So the Director General is the accountable authority for the department. Did you understand the chair to be the accountable authority for the Gaming and Wagering Commission or the whole of the commission?
I didn't how to say, turn my head into that at that time, because it means that I may have to challenge the Director General. So yeah, I never have such a,
Turned your mind to it.
yeah. So I
Okay.
just take the instruction to complete the work.
Okay. And the final item from me, you talked about the review that you did towards the end of the year, at May and June. You look at the financial position of GWC and the department, and the DG would request that you make adjustments at some times. You referred to parking some amounts like superannuation. I didn't quite catch that. Would you mind running through that again for me, exactly what that process was?
I think that one, well, to be honest, I also have my baseline. As long as it's not any misappropriation, then it's fine. I can't see anything wrong for doing that one to park the money in GWC. Let's say the recruitment rate is 4 million, okay?
Yes.
Because prior to 2007, we can see some breakdown like salary, accommodation, electricity, and corporate services salary, and corporate services non-salary. You know that
Yes,
item,
that breakup.
that is that is the result of the package prior to 2007. Around 2007, we changed to flat recruitment rate. That is the difference, okay? So on that one, because it was packaged, I always inherited. That is already put in place. I think Mr. Sargent gave instruction to finance even before I came on board. Don't pay the full amount to the department. Keep some money. We'll pay that in next financial year. Every year we'll have a delay for that item. So because the super overhead was one of the significant item.
Yeah.
So that is the reason why he want to park the money in GWC. But it's okay. It's accrual accounting. So it's a liability asset. It's just the cash movement, the liquidity.
So the expense would be recorded, but the cash would
Yeah,
go.
correct.
Thank you, Mr. Ong. That's all from me.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. So what was the advantage of doing that?
I can't tell, and also I never asked, because otherwise you're challenging your boss. I think as long as there's nothing wrong, it's not illegal. It's okay. It's not misappropriate the money. It's just accounting entry. You know, the money is at the end will pass from GWC to the department. It's just a matter of time.
Thank you, Mr. Ong. Yes, Ms. Seward.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. And nothing arising.
No, thank you, Commissioner.
Mr. Ong, that completes your evidence today. We will leave the summons in place because there is the possibility that Commissioner Owen, who is not here, may have some questions for you, but it is highly unlikely that you will be required to return. We will let you know when you are finally released from your summons. So you are free to leave, and we will adjourn until 2 p.m. Thank you.
All rise.